Hello, this is Bob Beeman and Mike Strong. What we're going to do today, we're actually going to do a couple of different repairs because we have extra time from doing just a shaft crack repair. What we're also going to show is how to do a repair on a blade delamination or chipping on the blade. And we're going to have Mike start that first, and then he'll turn it over to me, and I'll start the shaft repair, and then we'll go back to the blade. So Mike, if you want to talk about what you're going to do and what you need.
Yep. Katie, if you want to switch over to
the camera.
Okay, so what we got is, like you hit the docks, you got a big old chip, you got a little bit of corner delamination, and then you got a piece here that a chunk is taken out. So what you want to do is get some 2-part epoxy, and then what we have here is JB Weld. You can use pretty much anything.
Hardware store, any type of 2-part.
Squirt a bunch.
The 5-minute kind is helpful because you can, it's workable a lot quicker.
Yeah.
We use the 5-minute or even a 3-minute sometimes at regattas if the person needs your oar back quickly.
Mix it up good. And then first thing, with the big chunk, take your utility knife, and then make sure you clean out all the debris. There'll be rocks, little bit of stuff in there. So just clean out everything that's loose. Some of the dough that's cracked. So after that's done, you want to take your epoxy and just fill it. Get it into the sides that are sticking up, filling in all the holes. And then you don't have to be that precise with it. After that's done, and then what we will do is take some plastic, which you can use any old milk jug, cut it down, anything that the epoxy won't stick to.
Yeah, I believe any of the ethylene plastic our adhesives won't stick to. But we've got a bunch of squares.
Just small little pieces, little squares, and then take a spring clamp, put it on both sides, and clamp it right over it. So pieces that are kind of sticking out will hold it. And then spot where it kind of pulled up, kind of the same thing. Take your epoxy, fill it in. Another piece of plastic, a clamp. And then this here that's kind of peeled up, you can actually, if you wanted to, you could use super glue and fill it into that. So just put it right inside. You can use the blade of the utility knife to push it in, just to make sure it's all the way in there. And then again, piece of plastic.
Yeah, sometimes at a regatta, somebody might come over right before a race and the corner of their blade is pulled up a little bit, delamed a little bit. Oftentimes we'll use super glue to glue it down and then clamp it like that. And that way it is much quicker.
And the one that you're filling in the big chunk, you want to make sure that it's upright. So if you have it down, all the epoxy will go out. So just make sure it's up, and then just wait until it sets. And then I'll
all right,
give it over to Bob. Sometimes you'll have a chunk and then you want to peel it all the way back, don't. You can just, like over here, just put a little bit of super glue or epoxy and then clamp it down. And then if it does peel back a big chunk, break it off, and then you can fill all that in with epoxy. Just let it harden up, and then you can sand it flat.
Yes. All right, and so I'm going to start my repair. And what I have here is, it's about a 3.5 to 4 inch long crack on an ultralight skull shaft. And so what I've got to do first when I see a crack like this, I try to determine if it's structural or just something that's just on the surface. Obviously, if the oar is in 2 pieces, you can't fix it. I actually have had people come to me and they've got each piece of the oar and they're saying, can you fix this? And you can't. Unfortunately, you can't. Once it's broken in half, or even if it's got, this one here has a longitudinal crack, but if it were to have a longitudinal crack and a vertical crack, the vertical cracks are what really compromise the material, and you can't fix that because it's structurally failed. And even with one of our patches on it, we don't trust it for racing. Or, you know, we have done times where we've patched something like that, and the person can use them for training, but certainly wouldn't want to use it in a race. So I usually will take my thumbs and push down and see how much it deflects, see if it's through all the layers, and then actually push down on it and see if it flexes out. So that's a good indicator if the oar is even worth fixing. We do see oftentimes a crack like this. Sometimes it's up here where the backstay of the rigger hits it and it'll cause a crack. But most of the time, things like that, cracks like that, you can repair. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So what you need for this repair, you get one thing you get from us, actually 2 things. You get a 12 inch by 12 inch square of our pre-preg carbon. And this carbon fiber is already impregnated with resin. So just heat and pressure will make it cure. Right now it's very soft and pliable, but as you'll see, you heat it up and then wrap it with a shrink tape and it'll cure and basically make another piece of shaft right over this one. So this is the shrink tape that you also can get from us. And then for tools, what you're going to need, one of the things is a place like V-blocks made out of wood, or in this case, we're using this these 2 sawhorses that have our built-in V-blocks. But you want to be able to spin the oar all the way around, because I'm going to be heating it with a heat gun, and you want to be able to turn it while you're heating it. So you don't want the blade to hit any surface. You want it to be able to spin freely. The next thing is you'll need either 60 grit or 80 grit sandpaper. That's to rough up the surface so the carbon fiber adheres to it. And we also have a sanding block. I think I'm going to use the sandpaper. Then you also need, you can use a marker or masking tape. I use masking tape because I'll use masking tape in 2 applications here. I use it to mark the end of each of the repair, and then I also use it to stick down the end of the shrink tape. So first thing I do, I actually will go past the crack on either end. I try to go past the crack like ½ an inch or a little more than a centimeter, and I wrap the tape around the shaft onto itself, and that's kind of a marking, so it shows how far I need to go, where I need to put the pre-preg. So I do that on both ends, and kind of try to make it so it's pretty straight. That gives me an area to sand. So I'll sand it by hand. Make sure you sand all the way around the shaft. You want to make it so it's not shiny, because anywhere that it's shiny, it's not going to have good adhesion from the the, 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 Sand it really well. You can see the still shiny spot there. Sand it. Even though you're going to have really good adhesion, carbon fiber will on right to it. Wipe it off with a rag. Do a little bit more. There we go. That's pretty good. A little bit more. It's good to have it all, get all the spots. You can do it sideways too. It doesn't have to be all one way. You want to make sure it's going to stick to the area around the crack especially, but you want to go all the way around the top. So I can see the crack here still, but it's sanded really well. And now I'll actually take the masking tape off, because that just gave me, it keeps you from over sanding. It's not a problem for structure, but it's just for cosmetics, because you want to make the repair look as good as you can. So now I've got the area all sanded, and what I do now is I actually will heat it up with a heat gun, so it's kind of hot to touch, and that will allow the material to stick around it and then onto itself. So while I'm turning it, I heat it up a little bit. And probably just a couple minutes, I'll touch it, and you can still touch it, it's fine. You don't want it too hot, but hot enough so the material sticks. And you want to make sure that you overlap onto itself. That's why we send out these 12-inch by 12-inch squares. So that's pretty hot now. So actually we'll mark just by eye how big a piece I need from where it's sanded on both sides. And you can tear it, because that's longitudinal there. You can actually tear the material and then peel it off. And now I've got just about what I need for length. Now I'll take it, the crack is right here. I want to make sure it overlaps over the crack maybe 2, maybe 3 times actually. So see that it's actually sticking to the shaft. So I'll take it now, make sure it's stuck down. You wrap it around with some pressure, wrap it around on itself. And one thing about this is it doesn't have to be really pretty. It is a patch after all. You can get a little bit of wrinkling, and it's not going to be a problem. This was a pretty long crack, so it takes a lot of carbon fiber. Sometimes the cracks are only just an inch or 2 long. This one's pretty long, but there, I've got a little bit of wrinkling there, but that's fine. It won't look perfect, but it certainly will be strong. So what I do now is I overlap the shrink tape onto itself before I start onto the material. So it will tighten up. And then I go about an 1/8 inch at a time overlapping itself, and then wrap it. You're basically wrapping like a Band-Aid, like a bandage. It's a shaft bandage, really.
But you want to put some pressure to it, but you don't want to put too much pressure.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to wrap it too tight, because it will actually the shrink tape will bond itself right into the carbon fiber, and it may happen here, and actually it doesn't matter for structural integrity, but for looks it won't be as pretty. I can see this shaft repair here is not going to be really pretty, because it's got the kind of puckering of the carbon fiber, but that's actually good, because that shows what they turn out like. Sometimes they're not perfect, but it does make a nice shaft repair. So you wrap it, and again, it just roughly go about 1/8 of an inch of overlap, and you're kind of mimicking what the tape spacing is of the rest of the shaft. That's actually a little bit less than 1/8, but This is what you need for pressure. And then I'll keep wrapping and go by the repair. And then I'll cut it off and tape it. So I'll hold it tight, cut the tape off. I can do it with 2 hands here. And then masking tape, like I said. Tape it around onto itself. Sort of out of the way. I'm down the shaft, so I'm not going to be too much on the tape itself. And you can see some wrinkling there. It's nice and smooth here, but that's fine. That material is going to cure and be a nice bandage. So what you do now is basically it's a time thing. You use a heat gun and you heat it for 15 minutes. And I'll start that now. I always check my watch. It's 12:15, so we're going to do 15 minutes. Staying about 1 inch to 1.5 inches away and waving the heat gun back and forth from end to end on the repair. And while turning the shaft, you want to make sure you keep turning the shaft as you go. And you can actually see the shrink tape start to tighten up. It's tightening up around the shaft, and it's going to be starting to have resin flow and start to cure. But it takes at least 15 minutes. So we'll keep going with this, and Mike can explain some more about the blade delaminations. Want to take it, Mike?
Yep. Okay, so this is not quite cured all the way, but it'll still work. Peel your plastic off. And after you get that done, take your utility knife and stuff that's on the blade. You can either sand it off or this comes off fairly easily. You can use a chisel too, and then around the edge, peel it off. And then this crack here, it sunk in a little bit, so if you wanted to, you could just do some more epoxy, fill it back in, and then after, you take a little sandpaper, sand over it. Sand the edge. And then here has a little bit of a part that's up. You can sand that so you can sand it pretty flat. Even if you take the paint off, it won't matter. On the edge, the back has a lot of junk, so I'll take the utility knife and just clean that off. Which on the shoulder here that got peeled up, I forgot to mention before, it's kind of like this big crack. You want to make sure you clean everything out, get little rocks in there, get pieces of wood from the dock and other stuff. You just want to make sure you get all the debris out of it before you glue it down. And then there's a section here where it got nicked in the corners, just a little bit nicked up. You can just take the sandpaper sand that, just kind of round it around. Even if the dough here has a little chunk, you can just sand it so it's flat again. There any questions? Yeah. So that's pretty much how much more time you got.
Another 10 minutes.
Guess we should have talked slower. Is there any topics that people want us to discuss that we haven't discussed yet? We can kind of do a filler for the 10 minutes.
Yeah, I got a feeling this repair is not going to be as pretty. It's pretty wrinkly. Sometimes they come out really nice, and sometimes they're kind of ugly. It may be a mess.
See real quick, we can go grab another blade and pull it up to the camera afterwards and be like, look how perfect.
Right,
it
look how
is."
perfect it is. Yeah, muted
Here's the
out.
finished product.
Perfect. Yeah, this shrink tape is different too. You know, it's different than we're usually using because it's really
Oh, is that
like
the
melting.
I was in the school.
I think it may be a big blob of mess. It's not going to come out all nice and glossy and shiny and pretty.
It's probably the newer stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We haven't done a repair with this tape. It's doing the job, no doubt, but may not be pretty.
Is it different tape than we use?
Different tape than we've been using in the past. And I don't know that it's going to come out. It looks like it's all melting in. I can see the resin flowing underneath it, but my worry is the tape going to come off or just come off in pieces, you know,
Oh, yeah.
which it might.
But I guess this is a good test if this is what we send out to customers.
But I've seen lots of repairs that look pretty bad, but they're
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah.
This is like melted.
So is everything you do for Regatta is complimentary?
Yes. We don't charge for anything.
Okay.
I went home and came back, Kate, but I was going to show you the addition we should get for the trailer.
Oh,
I have an electric scooter that I commute back and forth with.
well,
Oh, yeah.
so, were you have it here or you went
I went home, then I
And you-
came back.
in your truck?
You know, on the motorcycle,
Oh, yeah.
headed out.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
That's a good one for the trailer though, yeah.
you like 2 or 3 of those.
Were you inspired by your time down? Where did you guys go?
Oakland.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Is it
With
like
the line,
one of
yeah,
those?
Yeah,
Awesome.
Get some
That's so
custom branding on
fun.
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we have the old dynamic Concept2 stickers and just put
Yeah.
Concept, or even smaller ones like Concept2 on it.
Awesome.
Yeah, like Philadelphia would be a good place.
Yeah.
Cleveland would have been a really good place for it too.
Yeah. Huh.
Or even Boston.
Yeah, but then what, you only give it to 2 people and then everyone else gotta walk or take the truck?
For a lot of people, they either walk or
Take the truck.
take the truck and stuff and like get 2 or 3, and then those people that want to go, they can just hop on it, go down the bike path or.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, when we were shut down, I was thinking about it and stuff. I was like, I can just get a scooter. Ride back and forth instead of starting the truck and coming over back and forth.
Yeah.
Right.
That's cool. You just plug it in?
Yeah. It lasts about a week.
Nice. Oh.
And, yeah, top speed is 19 miles an hour. So it's
Pretty
just
fast.
that long.
Yeah. Yeah. Faster than a bike.
Yeah.
Used to take 5 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, from my house to here is 4 minutes.
I think this is gonna be an ugly stick. We'll see. Yeah, the sandpaper is different than what we have had in the past.
I sent a couple pictures of you doing this, Bob, to social media, to the team that took it up. So are you okay with it going on Facebook or something, a picture you doing it?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So you said you did that for 15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. This repair is easier than I thought.
Easier?
Yeah.
It is easy. It's this takes the time.
Yeah. I'm glad you talked about what damage is repairable,
Right.
and what isn't. Because
Yeah, you've got to
that comes up
evaluate the
so
crack.
no crack.
No
versus-
cracks the other way.
Okay.
No,
Never. Okay.
no, even a little one, it'll break.
Okay.
The structure is not good. Been compromised.
So the
Stop it, take a look at it.
back. Okay.
I think we may have a problem with the tape. I'm just gonna, yeah. Tape is not coming off. Tape's different than what our tape was. It's been in the past. Tape's not coming off, Mike.
No.
No. Oh, yeah, I guess it is. Oh, look at that. It's really different though. Okay, so I'm peeling the tape away, and it's certainly not pretty, but here's the repair. So it basically forms a new shaft right over the old one, and it's super strong for sure. So I'd have to say it's probably one of my ugly repairs, but it's exactly what you need to do when you have a crack, and you can use that for racing. You know, it definitely would be strong enough. I don't think it affects the stiffness very much. People oftentimes will ask me that question. Adding carbon to it, you know, it is a little bit more weight, but negligible, you know, it's not very much. But you certainly could use it. And if you wanted to, you could sand down the ridges where it looks kind of rough and clear coat it if you want to, and make it look better. I've actually seen people that do that. They'll sand it all down, make it look really nice, but that area will be all smooth and won't have the ridges of the shrink tape. But yeah, that's it.